Furthermore, I believe that any potential of a settlement in the Ripple SEC case for unresolved allegations that were not addressed at summary judgment was effectively destroyed earlier today. In this video, I'll show Ripple's venomous Twitter response to the SEC's complaint against them. This video was simply fantastic, guys. Ripple dissects the SEC and demonstrates that they are bad actors attempting to destabilize the Bitcoin industry. I can tell you that if you haven't already, you should watch this video. When I first saw it this morning, I was amazed. I thought it was wonderful in every way. Be sure to remain for this. However, near the end of the movie, we'd like to share an insider tip we recently obtained from a Coinbase employee about what the SEC expected of them before the SEC filed their case. Furthermore, the SEC has recently filed a complaint against a Bitcoin market player whom I truly support. Make sure to watch the entire video because you won't want to miss it. As a result, I must open this film with the great footage sent to Twitter by Ripple and Stuart L. Durati. Earlier today, he chastised the SEC for pushing the notion that cryptocurrencies, or the coin itself, might be used as a security. When I first watched this video when Ripple published it, I was struck by how vicious they were. The one thing I will say about this movie is that when I first watched it, I knew right away that any settlement discussions between Ripple and the SEC were off the table because this item was so vicious and direct in its criticism of the SEC. I really can't believe they'd release anything like this during summit discussions. This item was incredible and truly delivered a critical message to the entire Bitcoin sector, one that I don't think the SEC will enjoy at all. However, if you listen to this, you will be able to decide for yourself, take notes on what to do. And Orange Bloom's whiskey barrels and digital assets have headphones in common, and it appears that we can recollect those beavers all too well. Many of the items are not securities on their own, but any of them can be included in a contract. For a potentially profitable investment, let me explain in further detail. As securities on the wall, a huge number of goods are listed, including mundane items. Concepts like as a stock is a securities share. If you hold stock in Apple, for example, you should do so at all times. You have a fiduciary duty to Apple, and you have the right to hold Apple accountable if they fail to fulfill that pledge, which applies regardless of how or to whom you purchase the shares. But an investment contract is also protected by law. Security is one of the considerations. Take into account that a regular share of stock is not the same as an investment contract, and anyone who tells you so is, to put it mildly, seeking to deceive you. Investment contracts are agreements that I sell you with the certainty that I will use the funds you contribute to execute actions that will increase the value of your investment. For me, that is not an investment contract. Instead, I can sell you a piece of those oranges growing in exchange for a larger set of promises to nurture the groves market the oranges and give you a portion of the proceeds. In other words, that is an investment contract. Oranges grow on their own, whether I sell them or not. To you, or you purchase the same orange groves on an exchange no investment contract, coupled with a pledge that I will attempt to make that orange grow successfully, and I will sell straight to you. Because it is an investment contract, the complete collection of guarantees is a security. Nonetheless, the orange groves are still plain orange. Some argue that a digital token can be considered a digital asset. It cannot be secure in and of itself. It is merely a tangible item or a form of virtual money in and of itself. It can be used to make payments as a virtual currency. It can be traded in the same way as commodities are. Similar to gold, oil, or pig belly, confused. Well, I can't blame you because certain people have been trying to perplex you for years. After all, only securities fall within the purview of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and that bothers them like a hammer. Perhaps they expect everything to be a nail, but that is not how the law works when it comes to retail cryptocurrency. Users must, without a doubt, be protected. From deceptive actors, the SEC is not the only auction the act of claiming jurisdiction where none exists. Existence is merely a political prank. It has a positive impact. It causes harm to everyone. Keep in mind that the token is not an investment contract in and of itself. Despite what the SEC would have you believe, I believe as a result, as you can probably guess. Home on a critical point, the SEC is attempting new legislation even though the law indicates that cryptocurrencies are not securities. They are still attempting to name them. As a result, the security was the XRP token itself, which Stuart Alderite indicates was the biggest problem in the Secretary's case. Opposing Ripple because they want control over digital assets and are upset that the law does not give them that control. For the previous few years, the SEC has been seeking to disseminate this conspiracy theory. Eventually, this was a fantastic response. Ripple, in my opinion, makes it crystal clear to anyone who is confused about how this works. Why is it that the coin itself is never the security, as I usually hear? This and this are being misinterpreted. This video clip is only one example of why that idea is baseless, and the SEC is now aware of everything. They're simply attempting to bring ambiguity into the market. They will, however, be unable to fight this. Ripple and Stuart Eldorado made this excellent video, and the only thing I'll say is that, as I indicated earlier in the movie, this immediately made it plain to me that his settlement was not an option. To put it mildly, this was a major slap in the face for the SEC because it directly exploits one of their main weaknesses. So even though I adore this video, I don't like that it implies we won't be receiving a settlement, but it's nearly impossible to cooperate when you have a rogue regulator like the SEC. Without question, a settlement would be preferable. They are most likely avoiding Ripple. Because of this, this was a close second in my opinion when dealing with a bully. Sometimes you simply have to punch him in the nose. As John Deaton famously stated, Ripple did precisely this in this case, and I think they did a tremendous job. I'd like to continue by mentioning two other incidents that are now taking place. And in true SEC fashion, we were just debating how terrible of a regulator they are. Filing a lawsuit against Coinbase. The SEC informed Coinbase, hey, we're not going to bring this lawsuit against you if you delist every asset on your platform. Except for Bitcoin, this is unexpected. The SEC's allegation merely serves to show their actual objectives in. They intend to launch a full-scale assault on this industry, putting a stop to everything, which is a marked divergence from what the SEC has historically done. Gary Gensler and the SEC have both said on numerous occasions that not every coin is a security. Many folks aren't. According to Gary Gensler, non-security accounts for 75% of the market. According to Jay Clayton, tokens are not securities. Furthermore, Gary Gensler's approval of Coinbase's IPO indicates that he believed the majority of their operations were legal, and what we see now is that the SEC is merely attempting to pressure Coinbase into complying with its demands by threatening legal action and using the fear of enforcement as a nuclear bomb on the sector. Demonstrates that the SEC has no interest in establishing clear regulations allowing these assets to register or cooperating with the government proactively. Instead, all they want to do is undermine it, create obstacles, and do everything they can to put an end to projects that are attempting to do the right thing. Simply told, the metal is insane. Lawman also raises an important point, namely that the Supreme Court is concerned about this doctrine because political appointees are unable to amend the law. They are incapable of dealing with uncertainty. On the free market, it has recently been declared that the theology of the major questions exists. Will be extremely tough for the SEC. And his metal lawman just said this is a flagrant instance of the SEC. Specifically breaking this will land them in serious trouble down the line. You already know everything you need to know about the SEC's intentions from this statement. After all that criticism of the SEC, I think I should conclude this picture with a compliment. The SEC went after Richard Hart and the Hex chain. Today, I've never addressed this initiative on this channel. It always sounded like a transparent scam to me. I didn't want to put it out in the open, but the SEC pursued it today. It was far too late to catch it. I can't give the SEC much credit because they had plenty of opportunity to properly put an end to this before it attracted so many investors, but in the end, I'm simply thrilled they're investigating a true scam. Going after companies like Ripple, Coinbase, and the library has cost taxpayers a lot of money. It is a terrible waste of time and energy. The SEC is now initiating legal action against a poor actor in the business, which is at least encouraging. Strangely, the SEC does not even attempt to argue that the HEX token itself is a security. In this case, they are unlikely to do so because, as a result of Ripple and Stuart Elderati's dishonest strategies, everyone, including the SEC, is beginning to realize that you cannot claim that the token itself is a security. It is against the law. It makes no logic and does not function, as the SEC has demonstrated. Who is prosecuting these criminals? Is hesitant to make such statements because they might end up experiencing what happened to Ripple. Just one false remark destroys the rest of their case. I believe it simply underlines the significance of what Ripple has accomplished SEC. That SEC's argument was easy. However, I feel they are approaching it with their tails between their legs by pursuing HEX. Morally, I support it, but I'm delighted to see that Ripple has seriously dethroned the SEC. Also, Gary Gensler must be having a rough time right now as he watches. As if the defeat wasn't bad enough, this spread and got popular on Twitter. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this update while you were here. Please keep in mind to like, and it signifies that you subscribed.